Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Fill Abundance. We are absolutely delighted to welcome, for the first time here, Governor Josh Shapiro, for the second or third time here, a repeat volunteer, Secretary Russell Redding, and a number of elected officials. I'm going to ask you to stand and be recognized. Last time you guys were here, you were packing boxes in this very space. Representative Isaacson, Representative Hohenstein, Representative Burgos, Senator Street, Representative Young, Representative Khan, Representative Curry, Rep. Dawkins, and Chairwoman Cephas. We also know that we invited both Council President Kenyatta Johnson, this is his home base, and Mayor Sherrill Parker, so they send their regrets that they're not able to be with us today. But thank you all for being here. I'm Lori Jones Brown. For the last 5.5 years, since June of 2020, I've had the privilege of serving as CEO with Fill Abundance. So yes, I know a little something about challenging times and the importance of GSDing for the people. We're honored to host you all, but of course, the reason we're gathered here is one that we're very concerned about. Fill Abundance proudly serves 100,000 households each week. To give you a sense of scale, you'd have to fill the Lincoln Financial Field where our Super Bowl champions Eagles play nearly twice to reach that number. In our region of southeastern Pennsylvania, which includes two of the Commonwealth's richest counties, 680,000 people are on SNAP. You'd have to fill that link 10 times. Tomorrow, 680,000 of our neighbors are facing an unprecedented moment of uncertainty. And we, in the Food Network, not only see it, we feel it. Over the last couple of weeks, we've had families coming to the warehouse looking for food. Just today, one of my colleagues told me that a mother came to our warehouse in North Philly with 4 kids in our car asking for help. Pantries are seeing scared faces and longer lines. And this is happening at a time when we were already seeing record numbers. Our pantry partners are reporting 30% more increase here, lines doubled there. Dual income households are seeking support like never before. Meanwhile, food banks and pantries are left with less resources to meet the need. The Pottstown cluster reduced the amount of times people could visit from weekly to just once a month. Small Things in Fairhill is inviting neighbors to take 15 pounds of food, half of what they used to offer. The founder of Murphy's Giving Market is dipping into her own pocket to purchase food for families. And for our pantries, their shelves are bare. Let's be honest, if you look around, this is the emptiest this warehouse has been in 5 years. Now, Governor, you know the numbers. You know that for every meal that food banks like Fill Abundance provides, SNAP provides 9. That is why this looming crisis, SNAP lapsing for the first time in its 60-plus year history, is so concerning. Need is at record highs. Inflation is taking its toll on individuals and food banks alike. And we are still feeling the tailwinds of the elimination of pandemic-era supports. Yesterday at Fill Abundance, we hosted our Community Partnerships Day and invited the pantries, the 300-plus pantries who give out food for us, to come together. Robin, who you'll hear from later, was there. Desiree and Cindy, who lead pantries, were there. We announced that at Fill Abundance, we are redoubling our efforts and our commitment to our mission to drive hunger from our community. You see, we were founded on the belief that no one should go hungry, especially not in the greatest country in the world. We are increasing our food purchasing to provide 600,000 more meals each month for the next 3 months. And I will pause so you can applaud, because I think that's incredible. That additional effort is going to cost us about $1 million on top of what we had already planned to spend this year. And we're doing that despite federal cuts. We're doing that without the support we normally depend on from the Commonwealth due to the budget impasse. The Charitable Food Network, and many of them are here. I'll ask you to raise your hand if you're a part of that. The Charitable Food Network, okay, thank you. Governor, the Charitable Food Network is strong, but the reality is we can't do it alone. At Fill Abundance, our incredible board is with us, and they're here. My board should be recognized as well. And frankly, our community is with us. We are bolstered by the upcoming WMMR Camp Out for Hunger, which we know will bring food and funds to this effort. We are encouraged by the bold commitment from the William Penn Foundation, Philadelphia Foundation, and United Way as they announce their regional food fund. And our local governments are stepping up to help fill the gap. Later today, Mayor Parker is announcing a One Philly response that's going to help us provide coordination and funding for this effort. And Montgomery County announced an aid package to support food banks earlier this afternoon. And Governor, we are heartened to have you, one of our biggest champions here today, reminding us that together we can GSD for the people of Pennsylvania. Governor Josh Shapiro.
Thank you, Lori. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody. Good afternoon, and I want to say thank you to Lori, not just for the kind words. Most importantly, I want to thank you for your strong and steady leadership. I think you and I have known each other about 2 decades, and whether in government or working outside and alongside your partners in government, you always make a difference, and I'm grateful to you. And I'm especially grateful to your board that you recognize, but all those amazing workers and volunteers from Philabundance. Thank you, guys. I know how hard you work, and we're really grateful to you. You know, for over 40 years, Philabundance has worked to feed families in need, distributing more than 39 million meals every single year. I think that is critical work. I think that is beautiful work, and that work is happening, sadly, at a time where hunger and food insecurity is on the rise. I know that many people served by Philabundance also rely on food assistance support from SNAP, from the federal government. Here in Pennsylvania, I want you to understand this, 2 million of our fellow Pennsylvanians receive SNAP benefits. Let me put that in some perspective for you. I see you shaking your head back and forth like that. 2 million people receive SNAP benefits here in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Our entire population in Pennsylvania is 13 million people. Roughly 1 in 8 of our neighbors here in our Commonwealth rely on SNAP. And since SNAP was created back in 1964, it has always been funded 100% by the federal government. But right now, because of the federal shutdown, 2 million of our neighbors here in Pennsylvania are about to lose their food assistance for the first time in the history of our nation. They have never had their benefits paused before until right now. This is all because the Trump administration has decided that it will not be issuing SNAP benefits for the month of November, which of course begins tomorrow. They made this determination even though they are sitting on billions of dollars of congressionally appropriated contingency funds. I want you to know that earlier this week, I sued the Trump administration, demanding that they release that contingency funding to keep our SNAP benefits flowing in the Commonwealth. I want to take a moment and thank Mike Fisher and Jacob Boyer from my team who joined me here, the lead lawyers in this case. And I want to provide you with an update that just occurred a few moments ago. The judge in our case ruled that the Trump administration must turn the spigot on and must release these SNAP dollars. That's an important win. An important win. And that is why we stood up and took on this fight and filed that suit. Now, there's 2 problems that we are concerned about. Number 1, it's going to take about 10 days for them to be able to get those dollars flowing to SNAP recipients again. And number 2, given this administration and its propensity to ignore the rule of law, I don't trust that they're going to follow this judge's ruling. I sure hope the Trump administration does not appeal and instead adheres to the rule of law and follows this judge's ruling. It is really important that we get these dollars flowing again. The sources of funds that have been held up to Pennsylvanians are, number 1, these SNAP benefits, and number 2, LFPA funds that go to fulfill a righteous cycle here in this Commonwealth. A $13 million earmark from the federal government that goes to Pennsylvania farmers who produce foods that end up in places like Philabundance. the Trump administration has stopped both of those funds, and I've sued over both to get it flowing again. I know we are here to talk about the 2 million Pennsylvanians who rely on SNAP, our neighbors who are going to go hungry because the federal government isn't fulfilling its obligation to its citizens. But let's not ignore the fact that there are numerous Pennsylvania farmers who are going to be hurt by the decision to not have SNAP funding go forward. Remember, these are farmers who rely on the market share of funding a place like Philabundance or Share or many of the others who do this righteous work. So not only is President Trump harming people who are hungry, he is harming Pennsylvania farmers. And that's on top of what he's already done to them with his ill-advised tariffs. I think right now we should be doing everything we can to feed Pennsylvanians and not making excuses as to why it can't happen. Unfortunately, the Trump administration has told all states in writing that should we choose to use state dollars to put money on people's SNAP cards, that we would not be reimbursed for that funding. I'm really honored to be joined by so many wonderful lawmakers who are here today, who have been sounding the alarm with their concerns about SNAP, who have reached out to me and said, Gov, we got to do something about this. These are wonderful people representing your communities. We can't ask them to go and try and appropriate funds that we won't get reimbursed for when this is a 100% federally funded initiative. I'm so grateful to all of you for your passion and concern, but let's be real, the Trump administration is putting us in a very, very dangerous place. They're both withholding the funds and telling us, don't go spending money on people who are hungry. Don't go investing in our farmers because we're not going to reimburse you. I think that is wrong. I think that is cold-hearted. And listen, here in Pennsylvania, though, I think we need to lead by example. And the example we set is to love thy neighbor. The example we set is from a famous Pennsylvanian, albeit on the other side of the state, that when there's a challenge, Mr. Rogers told us to look for the helpers. Philabundance, you guys are the helpers. These lawmakers are helpers. Everyone here who cares deeply about their neighbors and helping them get the food that they need, you are the helpers. That is why I'm joining with those helpers. And just a few hours ago, in my office in Harrisburg, I signed a disaster declaration, which will allow us to meet the needs of hungry Pennsylvanians who are facing a food crisis brought about by the federal government's unwillingness to feed people. As a result of my disaster declaration that I signed, our administration will now immediately drive out $5 million in state funding to food banks like Philabundance that will allow them to purchase more healthy food from local sources, including Pennsylvania farmers, to provide food assistance to the millions of Pennsylvanians who are in need. This funding is going to be distributed similar to how funding goes out through the Pennsylvania Agriculture Surplus System, known as PASS. That's an existing initiative under the Department of Agriculture led by Secretary Russell Redding that has already driven out $35.5 million of state funds through the programs to 13 food banks across the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania that serve each of our 67 counties. And I again need to thank these state lawmakers who are here, who've consistently voted in favor of my budgets that include this funding. And in the budget that we are getting done now, it's going to include additional funding for this initiative, and I want to thank them for their work. Through this initiative, the Commonwealth will be able to drive out funding to Feeding Pennsylvania, which then distributes the money to our food banks, including Philabundance, who can then use those dollars to purchase fresh food from farmers and food vendors. When I signed this declaration earlier, that also allows us to cut through the red tape and get funds to food banks as quickly as possible. The dollars that I've released today will be in our food banks, allowing them to purchase more food for this coming week. There is no delay. We are getting stuff done here in Pennsylvania. The declaration I signed also provides me as governor with more authority and more tools to address this crisis. But let me be clear, Pennsylvania cannot possibly fill the gap left by losing $366 million a month, which is the amount of money that goes on individual SNAP cards each month here in Pennsylvania. And remember, the feds will not reimburse us if we seek to put dollars on that card. So we are instead relying on our food banks, turning to them to make sure that those who are hungry, those who are in need, get the help that they need. In addition to the work we're doing at the state level, over the last 24 hours, I have worked closely with the private sector and asked Pennsylvanians who are fortunate, asked Pennsylvanians who have done well to step up and help their neighbors in this time of need. And I wanted to announce today that as a result of my calls to those leaders in the private sector, we have raised an initial $1 million that will go on top of the state funds that we are releasing. Those individuals have donated to our SNAP Emergency Release Fund. Some of them wanted to be identified or were willing to be identified, and some wanted to do it anonymously. I wanted to take a moment to thank Thomas Tull. I want to take a moment to thank Connie Williams. I want to take a moment to thank Mark Cuban. I want to take a moment to thank David Edelman. Each of these individuals have stepped up in the initial hours of our campaign to help feed Pennsylvanians on top of the private or public dollars that we are releasing. Every single dollar that is raised into the SNAP Emergency Relief Fund will go directly to feeding Pennsylvania and their network of food banks. Those dollars will not flow through the state. They'll go directly into feeding Pennsylvania. I want to just say to those Pennsylvanians again how grateful I am that they are stepping up, and I want to invite others who are fortunate in this time of need to step up and help as well. Pennsylvania is a wonderful place where people look out for one another. They lift one another up. And in moments of darkness, this Commonwealth can always find some light. And so I want to thank those who have already agreed to step up and urge others to do the same. Look, I think making sure our neighbors have enough to eat, it's one of the most basic foundational things that we can do. Our food banks do an amazing job of that with an assist from our wonderful farmers to help people who are in need, people who are hungry. It really is a righteous cycle. And I want to invite anyone who is fortunate enough in their lives to contribute to the SNAP Emergency Relief Fund. And if you can't contribute to the SNAP Emergency Relief Fund, come do a shift here at Philabundance. Go over to Share, go to Jerry, go wherever you can to make a difference. Volunteer your time and help your neighbors who are in need. That's something my family and I have done for many years. And I must tell you, it's a beautiful thing to not only pack those boxes, but then take those boxes to the people who need it most and see the smile on their face, the relief on their face, knowing that their neighbors were there to help them. In the midst of all of this, I want our fellow Pennsylvanians to just remember who we're talking about here. 1 out of every 8 people who walk down the streets in our Commonwealth rely on SNAP. We're talking about that single mom who's working long hours, who's doing all the right things, but struggling to pay the bills and just needs a little bit of extra help. That grandmom here in South Philly who can't work, who's got a disability, but needs to needs a little bit more help to be able to cover the groceries for her or maybe for one of her grandchildren. These are real people, and we can't lose sight of that. With all the bickering and the fighting and chaos in D.C., we have to remember these are real people who need help, and that's why Pennsylvania is standing up to do this now. I know folks are worried, and I know that what we're doing here is important, but it can't possibly meet the full gap that exists. We're going to keep doing everything we can to pump more money into these food banks and help people in their time of need. And I just want to invite all of our fellow Pennsylvanians to do the same to help us here. And if you are someone who is in need, if you're wondering where you turn tomorrow when you don't get your SNAP help, I want you to dial 211, or I want you to go to pa211.org, and you can find a food bank in your area that's going to be receiving this extra help, and they'll have what you need to help you stay on your feet. Most importantly, to my fellow Pennsylvanians, I want you to know I got your back, and we're here for you. Thank you. With that, it really is my pleasure now to bring up Robin Perkins. She is not only a SNAP recipient, but a participant in Philabundance's Community Kitchen program. a wonderful person who just has like a warmth to her that I picked up on immediately when we got the chance to meet a few moments ago. I want you to hear from Robin. I want you to understand the impact these SNAP cuts are having. Ladies and gentlemen, please meet Robin Perkins.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
I'm Robin Perkins. I was born and raised in Nicetown, Philly, and I'm currently a resident of South Philadelphia. I'm a student in Philabundance Community Job Training Program. Throughout life, I've utilized public benefits such as SNAP and WIC. I recently lost my job of 7 years in April 2025, but I had to figure out what I wanted to do next, so I connected to Philabundance's Community Kitchen. Throughout life, I've been a SNAP participant, both as a mother, raising children, and even now as a single woman and a student. I have close family members that utilize SNAP. I have been receiving communication on SNAP being paused because of government shutdown, and it makes me sigh and ask myself, what can I do? What SNAP means to me, as a person, I need to make tough choices when I'm going grocery shopping. What can I buy? Will it cover that? Now that entire resource is gone for the month of November. Last time I received benefits was October. I have $30 left that I'm holding on to for the holiday season. I want people to know why I think funding SNAP is so important. It's the only resource for obtaining food for some people. There are some people who have jobs or some who are unemployed that all use SNAP. I'm grateful to be part of a community that is coming together to pool resources and take care of each other. I really urge your support and more awareness and importance to fund SNAP. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Robin. I want to invite up Julie Bancroft, who does an amazing job of making sure these dollars get out to places like Philabundance and support our communities. Julie?
Thank you, Governor Shapiro, and thank you, Robin, for sharing your story and being here today. I appreciate the opportunity to be here, and I am honored to speak on behalf of our 9 food banks, which serve 1.7 million people each year, including nearly 500,000 children. Hunger in Pennsylvania has increased 44% over 2 years. While our food banks distribute over 237 million pounds of food annually, enough for 197 million meals, they will tell you it hasn't been enough to meet the need, and it absolutely is not enough on the eve of millions of Pennsylvanians facing the loss of SNAP benefits. Food banks are resilient and efficient. They serve as trusted community resources for neighbors facing hunger. Behind the scenes, they form the logistics backbone for nearly 3,000 pantries and feeding programs, helping distribute millions of pounds of food quickly to the areas that need it most. They are built for moments like this. However, we're facing a perfect storm of resource constraints. Earlier this year, and Governor Shapiro talked about this, we lost $13 million in federal funding for partnerships between local farms and the Charitable Food Network, as well as $6 million in emergency food orders that were canceled by the federal government. Additionally, nearly $30 million from the State Food Purchase Program and the Pennsylvania Agricultural Surplus System are stalled due to the state budget impasse. On top of that, the federal government shutdown has resulted in unpaid workers turning to the charitable food system. And starting on November 1, 2 million Pennsylvanians may lose access to their SNAP benefits. Where will they turn? They'll turn to food banks and pantries, many for the first time, because their SNAP benefits have been just enough to make ends meet. Last week, when DHS announced USDA's suspension of November SNAP payments, our network faced a wave of panic from neighbors and pantries. Pantry and on-site food bank distribution numbers are already doubling. Food banks are receiving calls from the VA and TSA requesting resources for employees unpaid during the shutdown. Our network is using cash reserves to keep shelves stocked, but these resources are limited and will run out, making emergency funding critical. The funding announced today will help ease the pressure in a time of crisis. It's a first step toward bridging the enormous gap, $366 million for just 1 month, caused by the halting of SNAP benefits payments, and will help us manage this uncertain period while advocating for the federal government to reopen, federal SNAP contingency funds to be released, and for stable year-round program funding through the state budget. Within days, food banks will be able to distribute fresh, nutritious Pennsylvania-grown products, meat, milk, eggs, and produce to local pantries. These healthy options will quickly reach seniors, veterans, children, and working families in every corner of the Commonwealth, providing vital support during this tough time. This funding is practical in that it infuses resources into Pennsylvania's food system at the most critical time. It's also symbolic of the power of partnerships, government, farmers, and nonprofits united in response. And it's symbolic of what it looks like when our people are prioritized over politics. For the millions of Pennsylvanians who are feeling anxious about what's to come, I want you to know our food bank network is here for you. We will navigate this crisis together. This funding is a necessary start while we continue to do everything we can to secure additional resources. The situation will become more dire the longer people don't have access to SNAP benefits. Still, we will do the best we can to be here, to be with you through this. So on behalf of the nearly 2 million people our network serves, and those who will rely on food banks likely for the first time in the coming days, I extend my sincere gratitude to Governor Shapiro and his administration for addressing this issue with urgency and mobilizing to deliver these emergency resources. This support will help more families gather for the holidays in joy and gratitude instead of fear. Thank you. And it is my privilege to introduce a true partner to the charitable food system, Secretary of Agriculture, Russell Redding.
Good. Julie, thank you. Good, thank you. Hey, Julie, thank you, and good afternoon, everybody. It is an honor to be here. It's an honor to stand with the governor any day, but particularly when we're talking about food and agriculture. We've been in farms and orchards and farm markets and all the places, recognizing the importance of agriculture and the capacity of our industry to sort of provide for Pennsylvanians and beyond. And I'm always humbled, right, that we see this amazing sort of dichotomy here in the state where you've got this agricultural capacity that's unmatched. At the same time, as the governor notes, you've got 2 million people, 2 million neighbors who are still food insecure, right? But we are comforted as we stand here, knowing that we've got food banks and across the state and Feeding Pennsylvania, and each of the folks, as we look around, are part of this amazing network that Julie spoke of. Right? We have that capacity as well, and that is important. And we're comforted further by living in a state that has its own state food purchase program, that it has its own pass program, right? Everybody here thinks they're normal? Maybe? My point is that this is not normal, this is extraordinary, right? That we have built this system over the years where you have the capacity of the state and fund it and support it, that there are other states that don't have that even state support, that is important, that have relied exclusively on what the USDA and the federal programs. Here, that is important, but we're also anchored and comforted by what we have in the state that's funded and supported. What the governor announced today with an additional $5 million in the PASS program is critical. We have seen it work over the years. The numbers tell their own story, that you can go out and connect those who are food insecure and hungry with the agricultural capacity of Pennsylvania. And that is a good thing. So we know that we have work to do here, certainly in the coming days and weeks and months, but we also know that we've got an amazing team of people who are prepared to step in and help to feed Pennsylvanians, make sure that we can provide, at least in the near term, some additional capacity so the shelves have some food on them. That is important for us. We have recognized in the state the PASS program. We're proud of it. It came out of an initiative several years ago with a very simple objective, And that was, we have this capacity, we have this surplus. Let's make sure that that surplus gets to Pennsylvanians who are in need of food. We see the apples in Adams County moving into Philabundance. We see Tioga dairy products moving into the greater Pittsburgh area. We see the apples and potatoes of Schuylkill County moving into Philadelphia. Right? These are the things that I think are really important to recognize. We've got that capacity here in Pennsylvania, prepared to use it. And then final to say that I think the governor made this point about this connectedness of our agricultural industry with the food system, is that we recognize in Pennsylvania that you cannot have a charitable food system without a food system that's charitable. It doesn't work, right? It's got to fit, it's got to match all of that. And in addition, that these are economic issues, that food security are economic security issues. And that's the piece that has been most challenging for us to understand what is going on with our federal government. Right? We negotiated, I say we, over the years. You know the story of our federal farm bill, 70 years in the making, that have had as its very cornerstone our food nutrition programs, coupled with our production programs, the environment, rural development. It's built on a partnership between the USDA and our states. It's built on the partnership of our producers and our food security system. And now we see that in question, right? That is fragile and broken. That's what's disappointing. It was 70 years in the making, and for the very first time in history, that is shattered. So we'll continue to work on that point, but please recognize the partnership that exists between our food banks, our charitable food system, and production agriculture in Pennsylvania. But I'm proud to do that with the governor and a team that has recognized that connection, to recognize that we've got an obligation, responsibility, is that you cannot have a functioning state or a community without folks being fed. So we're here to raise that point, to recognize the important work today with the disaster declaration, the additional $5 million to put food into the pipeline immediately, and to do that in a state that the leaders of our state, and I'm proud of the governor, that we live in a state not just with the programs and policies, but we've got a governor who recognized the connections, who recognized the important humanity of this work, and the connections that we as people, as individuals, can also have in changing the course of this moment. So, Governor, thank you, and I'll ask the governor to come back. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Before I take questions, I hope it's not lost on folks here that even as we issued this emergency declaration and put together both the state funds and the private dollars we were able to raise, we're leaning on a system that Secretary Redding has built up and strengthened over so many years, where it was easier for us to get help out to people because he had those connections, we built the systems, and he had the relationships, and we're really indebted to you, Mr. Secretary. Thank you for your leadership. Thank you. Thank you. I just heard Representative Cephas mumble under her breath, "He's great," and I agree with her. So I'll take a few questions from the media, yeah.
Other states have done similar fast tracking of state funds to go to local pantries, but they've done that with already appropriated funds from their state budgets. Since Pennsylvania doesn't have a state budget, where is the $5 million coming from?
These are dollars we had available in other counts here in the Commonwealth that I was able to use my authority as governor to move around and drive these dollars out immediately to places like Philabundance.
How fast can these funds roll out? Like, when could we expect, or when could food banks expect to receive?
The funds will roll out within hours, and then the food banks will receive that money from Feeding Pennsylvania, and they'll be purchasing food within a day or so. And so I think we can expect that over the course of the next several days, the supplies that exist at food banks will increase.
Governor, you mentioned even if the administration plays ball with that ruling, it could take 10 days to get at least partial SNAP benefits rolled out. How much do you think $5 million buys you? How much time do you
Remember, it's the $5 million that the state has put in, combined with the private sector dollars we're raising. We're already just over $1 million. We want to be able to meet the need for as long as it exists. I hope the federal government ends the shutdown. I hope the Trump administration in the short term adheres to the rule of law and this judge's ruling. We'll do what we need to do here in Pennsylvania to look after our neighbors.
Can you just clearly go over, like, what should a SNAP benefit, what should somebody who gets SNAP benefits, what specifically should they do starting midnight tonight?
If you're a SNAP benefit recipient, you will not get the money on your card tomorrow, November 1st. And as a result, I would presume that the vast majority, if not all 2 million Pennsylvanians who don't receive that money, are going to be in dire straits. They're going to be in need. They can now go to a food bank across Pennsylvania, and they can access a place like a Philabundance that has more product as a result of the additional dollars that are coming to them from the state and from those generous people in the private sector who are contributing to this fund. So the hope is, even if a SNAP recipient didn't have to come to Philabundance before, because they were just getting by, that now they know they can come to Philabundance, they can come to Share, they can come to one of these other places and get the help that they need as a result of the additional dollars that we're providing, and thus the additional food that will end up on these shelves.
And that's the 211 number.
If they are interested in finding a food bank near them, they can call 211 or go to pa211.org. Anything else? Yeah.
Governor, how long gonna be Pennsylvania in emergency? And I would like a message from you. The next week we have election. Decision of voters could be crucial for the next 4 years. As leader of Pennsylvania, what is your message to voters?
Well, let me just say, I hope people get out and exercise their right to vote. There's important elections on the ballot, including for the Pennsylvania Supreme Court, and I hope they get out and vote.
There's some confusion. There's 2 lawsuits going on, one that you have with other states and then your own. Can you just clarify?
Judges ruled in 2 cases. I cited the one that we were directly leading on. In both cases, the judges ruled that the Trump administration needs to release those contingency funds. There are some questions as to what the relief will look like. The real issue here is whether or not the Trump administration will follow the judge's ruling, or whether they will appeal and seek to stop the judge's ruling from going into effect. I've got a history of suing this administration, and by the way, winning every time. And when I do that, sometimes they have just acquiesced and returned the money to the Commonwealth. Other times they've chosen to appeal and in effect stop the relief from coming. In this case, the relief would be providing the dollars for SNAP recipients. We'll have to see what they do. I sure hope they do the right thing. They don't appeal. They load the money up on people's SNAP cards, and they give the people the help they need. What we know is even if they do that, we're still going to have this kind of week to 10-day lag time where people are going to have extra need. And when they have that extra need, the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania is now there for them through wonderful food banks like Philabundance.
So that SNAP money wouldn't appear like at midnight tonight, even if they acquiesce?
It will take roughly a week to 10 days should the administration choose to adhere to the judge's ruling. Yeah.
You've met the last 4 days with the leaders of the 2 branches of the General Assembly. How are these meetings going without divulging, specifics? Yeah. And do you anticipate them returning to Harrisburg?
Here's what I'll say about the budget. The leaders can speak for themselves as to their scheduling. I brought the leaders of all 4 caucuses into my office multiple times a day for the last 4 days. We were at it together last night till, 11 o'clock or something at night, and back at it very early this morning. I feel very, very good about where we are. I'm not going to get ahead of the group here. I'm not going to get ahead of the leaders. But I think we understand one another. We're in a very good position. And I hope I'll have more to say on this very soon. Yeah.
I'm not a media. I'm a pantry. But I have a question.
Sure.
So, because we interface with these people, every day. Is it 7 to 10 business days, or is it 7 to 10 calendar days?
In terms of the federal, yeah. Well, no. The state money is available. If the federal government chooses to put the money into SNAP, probably takes 7 to 10 business days. Our dollars from the state, as a result of my emergency declaration, are available immediately, and we expect additional product, additional food, to be available in food banks for people who are in need within just a couple days here, a few days. Okay? Anything else from the media? We're good? Yeah.
Sorry, I have a SEPTA question. Is there an alternative plan to ensure that the removal of train cars after inspections does not have a major impact on the provision of transport services in the region?
I can tell you that we are spending a significant amount of time working with SEPTA, our partners at the federal level, and obviously the state under Secretary Carroll's leadership, and at the local level with the mayor and county commissioners. And we are working to address the Silverliner issue. They are going through testing now. I expect that testing to be completed over the course of the next 2 weeks. And when that is done, that will give us a better picture of what relief is needed, and then we're all going to work together to address it. Okay? Thank you all very much.
Thank you. Thanks,
But of course, the reason we're gathered here is one that we're very concerned about. Philabundance proudly serves 100,000 households each week. To give you a sense of scale, you'd have to fill the Lincoln Financial Field where our Super Bowl champions, the Eagles, play nearly twice to reach that number. In our region of southeastern Pennsylvania, which includes 2 of the Commonwealth's richest counties, 680,000 people are on SNAP. You'd have to fill that length 10 times. Tomorrow, 680,000 of our neighbors are facing an unprecedented moment of uncertainty. And we, in the Food Network, not only see it, we feel it.
Thank you, everybody. Good afternoon, and I want to say thank you to Lori, not just for the kind words. Most importantly, I want to thank you for your strong and steady leadership. I think you and I have known each other about 2 decades, and whether in government or working outside and alongside your partners in government, you always make a difference, and I'm grateful to you. And I'm especially grateful you to understand this. 2 million of our fellow Pennsylvanians receive SNAP benefits. Let me put that in some perspective for you. I see you shaking your head back and forth like that. 2 million people receive SNAP benefits. I want to take a moment and thank Mike Fisher and Jacob Boyer from my team who joined me here, the lead lawyers in this case. And I want to provide you with an update that just occurred a few moments ago. The judge in our case ruled that the Trump administration must turn the spigot on and must release these SNAP dollars. That's an important thing.